The grand hall of the galactic conclave shimmered with light from 1,000 stars. Every wall glowed with gentle colors that changed according to the moods of the beings inside. Hundreds of species had gathered, tall, scaled, feathered, luminous, mechanical, all moving in a perfect rhythm of peace. It was the day of the Festival of Unity, a celebration of the many civilizations that made up the galaxy's great alliance. Music from worlds unknown filled the air. Floating holograms told stories of discovery and cooperation. It was supposed to be a joyful day, a symbol of harmony, but not everyone felt joy. In the middle of the crowd stood Lysera, a woman of the Verine species, tall, slender, with skin made of crystalline material that caught the light like glass. When a beam of starlight touched her, her skin refracted it into many colors. To a human eye, she looked beautiful, like a living gem, but among her own kind, she was considered flawed. Verines valued perfect symmetry and flawless transparency. A perfect Verine's crystal body was clear and pure, with no visible lines or discolorations. Lysera's crystal hue was slightly clouded with faint silver lines running across her shoulders. It made her look different, and different among the Verine meant less. She stood quietly near one of the floating gardens, watching other delegates talk and laugh. Her reflection appeared in the clear surface of the water, a faintly distorted, imperfect face. She sighed softly. Even among so many beautiful beings, I am the dull one. Her words went unheard by her people. They were busy showing off their perfect forms to others, shimmering, gleaming, proud. But someone did hear her. A few meters away, a group of humans stood near the refreshment area, talking casually. They looked simple compared to the other races. No glowing skin, no wings, no visible energy fields. Their bodies were soft, covered with fabric uniforms, yet there was something different about them, something in their eyes. One of them turned his head when he heard the quiet voice. It was Commander Jacob Reeves, a representative from Earth. He had dark hair, a calm expression, and eyes that carried warmth and curiosity, traits most aliens found unusual in humans. He watched Lysera for a moment. She looked lonely, her shoulders slightly lowered. Around her, others sparkled like diamonds, but she looked more like silver under the moonlight, quiet, soft, yet somehow alive. Reeves walked closer. The Verine around Lysera noticed him and stepped back slightly. Many species still found humans strange. Humanity was new to the galactic community, unpredictable, emotional, and deeply different in the way they saw the world. But Reeves didn't seem to care. He gave Lysera a gentle smile. "Excuse me," he said politely. "You looked a bit sad. Are you all right?" Lysera blinked in surprise. "You are speaking to me?" Reeves chuckled softly. "Yes, I am. Should I not?" Her glowing eyes flickered. "It's just, no one usually does. My people prefer to speak with those who," she paused, lowering her gaze, "fit their idea of beauty." Reeves tilted his head. "Idea of beauty?" Lysera nodded slowly. "Among the Verine, we are judged by how perfectly our crystal bodies shine. The purer the light that passes through us, the more beautiful we are. Mine refracts unevenly. It is seen as a flaw." Reeves frowned slightly. "A flaw?" She looked away. "Yes, I was born imperfect. My crystal hue is considered dim. I have tried to polish it to make it clearer, but it never changes. I suppose some of us are simply less." There was silence for a moment. The soft hum of the hall surrounded them. Laughter, music, alien voices. But in that silence between two beings from different worlds, something shifted. Reeves took a step closer. His expression wasn't pity. It was something else, and a kind of quiet awe. He looked at her, not as a diplomat, but as a human seeing something extraordinary. "You know," he said softly, "on Earth we don't think like that." Lysera tilted her head. "You don't?" He smiled faintly. "No, where I come from, beauty isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. A mountain with cracks is still beautiful. A painting with rough edges, a song sung off key. They touch people because they feel alive. Because they tell a story." Lysera's crystal eyes widened slightly. "A story?" Reeves nodded. "Yes. Every line, every imperfection. It means you've lived, you've endured, you've become something no one else can be. That's beauty to us." Lysera was silent. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever looked at her and seen anything but a mistake in shape. But this human, he looked at her as if she were something rare, something priceless. Nearby, a few other aliens had turned their heads, curious about the conversation. Their translators were catching the words, and their expressions shifted: confusion, interest, disbelief. Reeves noticed none of them. He kept his eyes on Lysera. "May I tell you something strange?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "When I first saw you," he said, "I thought your skin looked like frozen starlight. Not bright and empty like glass, but warm, like the night sky after rain. You called it imperfect, I call it human." Lysera blinked. "Human?" He smiled gently. "Yes, because to us being human means being flawed, but still shining anyway." For a moment, Lysera couldn't find her voice. The translation drones buzzed softly, repeating his words in her language, and the sound echoed around the nearby delegates. Some gasped quietly. Others whispered to each other. A human had just described imperfection as beauty. Lysera felt something strange, a warmth spreading inside her chest. Her crystals glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. It had never happened before. She looked up at Reeves again. "You truly see it that way?" Reeves nodded. "Absolutely." She gave a small, hesitant smile. "Then perhaps I should stop hiding my cracks," he grinned. "You should. They make you who you are." The moment between them hung in the air like soft light. Around them, several alien diplomats exchanged glances. Some seemed offended, others thoughtful. Among the Virine delegation, whispers began to rise, and sharp and disapproving, but Lysera didn't notice anymore. For the first time in her life, she didn't care what others thought. She felt lighter, as if his words had wiped away years of quiet shame. The music shifted to a slower melody, and the light dimmed. Reeves looked up and said with a smile, "Seems like they're starting the unity dance." Lysera laughed softly, a sound like crystal wind chimes. "I have never danced before." He extended his hand. "Then maybe it's time to start." She hesitated and then took his hand. It was warm, soft, completely different from the cool smoothness of her own. Together they stepped into the open space as the lights swirled around them. Every species watched, a human and a flawed Virine moving together under the starlit dome. To many it looked strange. To others it looked right. And though no one knew it yet, that small moment, a dance between two beings who refused to believe in perfection, would change how the galaxy understood beauty forever. As the dance ended, Reeves gave a polite bow and Lysera mirrored it. Her reflection in the crystal floor looked brighter now, not because she had changed, but because she believed she was more than her flaws. The Virine elders frowned from a distance, their perfect bodies gleaming coldly. One whispered to another, "The humans will ruin her with their strange thoughts." But another alien nearby, one with scarred scales and missing feathers, whispered softly, "Maybe they will save her." Lysera didn't hear them. She was still looking at her reflection, then at Reeves. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" he asked. "For showing me the light in my cracks." Reeves smiled. "Sometimes the cracks are where the light enters." Lysera looked at him curiously. "Is that a human saying?" He nodded. "Something like that." The music faded. The festival lights dimmed, and the stars beyond the transparent dome glowed brighter. For a moment it felt as if the universe itself was listening. The next morning the Festival of Unity had ended, but its echoes still filled the air. The great hall of the Galactic Conclave, once full of laughter and music, now buzzed with whispers. The reason was simple. A human had said something that no one could stop talking about. Commander Jacob Reeves, an ordinary diplomat from Earth, had told an alien woman that her flaws were what made her beautiful. A few translator drones had picked up his words and broadcast them across the hall. Within hours, the story had spread far beyond the festival. By morning, it had reached every major world in the Alliance. In the Conclave's central communication chamber, screens flashed with news headlines written in dozens of languages. Human declares imperfection equals beauty. Virine delegate dances with Earthmen, a cultural shock. Humans see flaws as strength, madness, or wisdom? Some species laughed. Others were offended, and some were quietly curious. The council's unease inside the council tower, the Virine elders gathered in their private chamber. The air shimmered with soft blue light. Dozens of crystalline figures stood around a circular table, each perfectly polished, each flawless. At the head of the table sat High Elder Zorath, his voice sharp like a blade. "This cannot continue," he said coldly. "That humans' words have corrupted our traditions. Already younger Vereen are questioning our teachings." A female elder beside him frowned. "I saw it myself. The moment the message reached our homeworld, artisans stopped their purification rituals. Some even left their work unfinished, claiming that imperfection brings beauty. This is chaos." Zorath slammed his crystal hand against the table, and a sound like breaking glass echoed through the chamber. "Humans think emotions can replace logic. They are a danger to order." Another elder spoke carefully, "But perhaps we should not judge too quickly. The humans' words, silence." Zorath roared, his voice vibrating through the walls. "You would defend this madness?" The chamber grew silent. None dared to speak again. Far below in the public areas of the conclave, not everyone agreed with the elders. The spreading Storm Alien news channels replayed the same scene again and again, Lysera and Commander Reeves dancing under the starlit dome. The moment had become iconic. The translation of Reeves's words was repeated on every frequency. "A flawless gem is just a rock, but one with cracks that catches the light. That's what tells the story of existence." No one knew exactly why those words hit so deep. Maybe it was because every race had its own hidden scars, wars, losses, histories written in pain. The idea that imperfection itself could hold beauty was something new, something raw. In the art districts of Vereen Prime, sculptors stopped polishing their statues. Painters began adding uneven strokes to their works. Musicians composed pieces that shifted tempo suddenly, breaking rhythm on purpose. A young Vereen artist posted a message on the galactic net. "For the first time, I didn't try to hide my cracks. And when the light touched me, I felt alive." The post reached billions within a day. Lysera's new world, meanwhile, Lysera stayed in her quarters aboard the Conclave's guest wing. She hadn't left since the festival. Every hour, new messages appeared on her communicator. From strangers, admirers, and critics. Some messages were full of kindness. "You are brave. Thank you for showing us a new kind of beauty." Others were filled with anger. "You have shamed the Vereen people. Stop spreading human lies." She felt both proud and afraid. She had never wanted attention. All she did was speak to someone who treated her kindly. As she sat near her window, the stars outside glimmered like the fragments of her own reflection. There was a soft chime, the door signal. Lysera hesitated, then opened it. Standing there was Commander Reeves. He smiled gently. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." She looked nervous. "The entire galaxy is talking about you." He shrugged lightly. "That's not new for humans. We talk too much and listen too little." She laughed softly. "No, they're talking about what you said." Reeves stepped inside, hands behind his back. "I heard. Seems my big mouth started a war of opinions." Lysera lowered her eyes. "The council is angry. They believe you insulted their traditions." Reeves sighed. "Yeah, I figured that would happen. But I didn't mean to insult anyone. I only told the truth as I see it." She looked up. "Why did you say those words to me?" He thought for a moment. "Because they were true. Because when you looked down, I saw someone who didn't know how much she already mattered." Lysera blinked. "No one has ever spoken to me that way." "Maybe no one dared," Reeves said softly. She smiled faintly. "Humans are strange," he grinned. "You have no idea." The galactic broadcast that evening, the Galactic Conclave held an emergency session. News reporters filled the viewing decks. Every species had sent representatives, including humans. Reeves was called to speak before the council. The chamber was vast, filled with floating seats arranged in a circle. In the center stood a glowing platform, the speaker's stage. When Reeves stepped onto it, thousands of eyes, lenses, and sensors focused on him. High Elder Zorath's voice echoed. "Human, you have caused disorder among the stars. Your words have spread confusion. Explain yourself." Reeves looked around calmly. "Confusion? Or reflection?" A low murmur filled the chamber. He continued, his voice firm yet respectful. "You call my words dangerous because they made people think. But tell me, is beauty only what fits your standards? Or is it something that moves the heart?" no matter the shape. Zorath glared. Beauty is perfection. Symmetry, clarity, order. That is the way of nature. Reeves shook his head. On Earth, nature is never perfect. Mountains crumble. Rivers twist. Faces age. But that's what makes them real. That's what makes them beautiful. The translators repeated his words in hundreds of languages. Many beings leaned forward, listening carefully. He went on. When something is perfect, it's finished. Lifeless. But imperfection means growth, struggle, story. Maybe your people fear flaws because they remind you that everything can break. But humans, we learned that what breaks can also shine. There was silence. Even the air seemed still. Zorath tried to respond, but no words came. From the audience seats, Lysera watched, her heart beating fast. She saw her people's elders glare in fury, but she also saw younger Vereen whispering, eyes filled with wonder. The cameras captured everything. Within minutes, the speech was broadcast across the galaxy. The shockwave, by the next morning, the galaxy was no longer the same. On distant mining colonies, workers etched human quotes into metal walls. On peaceful worlds, philosophers debated the meaning of flaws that shine. Even synthetic life forms, and those built to be flawless, began painting scratches onto their bodies, calling them human marks. The phrase "humans see differently" became a universal tag on every communication network. Some governments banned human broadcasts, calling them emotional contamination. But the more they tried to silence the idea, the stronger it grew. Lysera's image and her soft, imperfect crystals glowing faintly became the symbol of the movement. People began calling her the Shattered Light. The private moment late that night, Lysera found Reeves again near the observation deck, the same place they first spoke. She looked at him quietly for a while before saying, "Do you realize what you've done?" He smiled. "I said some words. The rest was the galaxy's doing. Your words are changing everything," she whispered. "My people are angry, but many others are awakening." Reeves leaned against the railing. Change always starts with anger. Then it becomes understanding. Lysera turned toward the stars. "When I was young, my mother told me to hide my lines, to polish them away. But now everywhere I go, people call me beautiful because of them. It feels strange." He nodded. "Strange is good. It means the universe is finally noticing what it missed." She smiled gently. "Do you humans always see the world this way?" Reeves chuckled. "We try. Sometimes we fail. But we keep looking for light, even in the cracks." They stood there together, watching the twin suns rise over the conclave's horizon. The glass panels reflected their figures, one soft and warm, the other shining with fractured light. For a moment, there was no alien, no human, just two beings sharing the same wonder. The quiet before the storm, but far away on Vereen Prime. The High Council was not pleased. High Elder Zorath watched the human speech again on the holoscreen, his crystal face cold. "He has infected our kind with emotion," he said slowly. "If we allow this to spread, we lose control." A younger council member hesitated. "But perhaps he is not wrong, Elder. The people are inspired." Zorath's eyes flashed with fury. "Then we will remind them what perfection means. Prepare a public decree. The human and the woman, they will both answer for this heresy." The room fell silent. Back in the conclave, Lysera felt a sudden chill, as if the stars themselves had warned her. She turned to Reeves, her voice soft. "Something is coming." He nodded slowly, eyes narrowing. "Then we'll face it together." The stars outside flickered brighter, as if listening. The words of one human had already shaken civilizations. But what was coming next would test the meaning of beauty, courage, and unity across the galaxy. The galaxy buzzed with noise. Every channel, every message board, every gathering of intelligent beings talked about only one thing: the words of the human and the alien woman who had changed the way countless species saw beauty, but not everyone saw it as a good change. On the shining world of Vereen Prime, where everything gleamed like crystal and even the air shimmered with light, the High Council was furious. Their perfection was being questioned. Their teachings were being mocked. And the cause of it all was a single human, and a woman they now called the Flawed Crystal. Summons from the High Council inside the grand tower of the Vereen Council. Messengers rushed through glowing corridors. The elders' voices echoed from the inner chambers. "Bring Lysera back," said High Elder Zorath, his crystal face cold and sharp. She must answer for her disobedience. But Elder, one assistant hesitated. The humans will protest. Let them, Zorath interrupted. They speak of chaos and call it freedom. It is time we teach them order. That same message was sent to the Galactic Conclave. The Vereen High Council demands the return of Lysera for public judgment. When Commander Jacob Reeves read the message on his communicator, he felt his stomach tighten. He knew what that meant. In Vereen law, public judgment was another word for punishment. Sometimes exile, sometimes worse. He rushed to Lysera's quarters. A warning Lysera was standing by the window again, staring at the stars. Her reflection looked calm, but her fingers trembled. She didn't turn around when Reeves entered. I already know, she said softly. They want me back. Reeves stopped beside her. You don't have to go. The Conclave can protect you. You can request asylum. Lysera shook her head slowly. If I run, they will call me a coward. They will say the humans filled me with shame. I must face them, not to prove them right, but to show them they are wrong. Reeves frowned. They won't listen. Then they will hear, she said quietly. Even if it changes nothing. He looked at her. The calm glow of her skin, the light shining through her cracks. She was afraid he could see it, but she stood tall anyway. Then I'm coming with you, Reeves said firmly. Lysera turned, eyes wide. They will not allow a human to speak at a Vereen trial. He smiled faintly. They'll have to try to stop me. The journey to Vereen Prime. The transport ship descended through the glittering clouds of the Vereen homeworld. Below, the surface looked like a sea of diamonds, every structure sharp and symmetrical, every line perfect. Reeves looked out the window. This place feels cold, he said softly. Lysera nodded. It is beautiful to look at, but cold to live in. Every light here hides a shadow. When they landed, guards in shining armor were already waiting. They bowed stiffly to Lysera, not out of respect but duty. Citizen Lysera, one of them said. By command of the High Council, you are to appear before judgment in one cycle. Reeves stepped forward. And I will be by her side. The guards looked at each other, uncertain. The council does not recognize human authority. Reeves crossed his arms. Then they'll have to get used to disappointment. Lysera almost smiled at his courage. Even surrounded by shining towers and cold stairs, the human's presence felt warm, like sunlight breaking through glass. The Hall of Perfection the next day. The Hall of Perfection was filled with thousands of Vereen. Their crystal bodies reflected light in every direction, filling the hall with rainbow brilliance. At the center stood a raised platform, the Judgment Spire. Lysera stood there alone at first, the light glinting off the silver lines on her skin. Her imperfections stood out clearly, like cracks in a flawless wall. High Elder Zorath's voice echoed through the hall. Lysera of the House of Shara, you stand accused of spreading corruption and human ideology among the Vereen. You defied our sacred ideals of purity and perfection. What do you say for yourself? Lysera lifted her chin. I say that I only told the truth. Gasps filled the hall. The crystals of the crowd flickered with unease. Zorath's tone hardened. Truth? You have been poisoned by emotion. You let a human fill your mind with weakness. Lysera's voice stayed calm. If feeling kindness is weakness, then perhaps weakness is not so bad. The hall rippled with murmurs. Zorath slammed his staff against the floor. Enough. Your words have made our youth question their identity. You have made them doubt perfection itself. Because perfection has no heart, Lysera replied softly. Only reflection. The crowd gasped again. Before the elders could respond, a deep voice rose from the back of the hall. She's right. All heads turned. Commander Reeves was standing among the crowd, his uniform catching the blue light. Guards moved toward him instantly, but he raised his hand. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to speak, Zorath glared. Humans have no place in this court. Reeves met his gaze calmly. Then consider me a witness, a friend, or maybe just a fool who believes in truth. The guards hesitated, unsure. The hall fell silent. The human speech Reeves stepped onto the platform beside Lysera. The light made his shadow stretch across the crowd like a dark line cutting through perfection. He looked around, meeting hundreds of gleaming eyes. You call her flawed, he began, because she isn't clear like glass. But when I look at her, I see something you can't. Life. Zorath scowled. You dare insult. I'm not insulting, Reeves interrupted. I'm describing. You see, on Earth we build things to last, but nothing that lasts is perfect. Every mountain breaks, every river changes, every face wrinkles. And still, and we call it beautiful, he pointed to the elders. You hide your cracks. We honor ours, because the cracks show that we've lived. A low murmur began among the younger Virene. Reeves continued, his voice growing stronger. Lysera's lines, her so-called flaws, they're proof that she's different, not broken. You fear her because she doesn't reflect your light. She creates her own. The hall was completely silent now. Even Zorath seemed unsure what to say. Reeves took a slow breath. Maybe that's why humans see beauty differently. Because we've known pain, loss, imperfection, and still found meaning. You search for clear light. We search for light that survived the dark. The crowd's crystals flickered, some dimming, some glowing brighter. Lysera looked at him with tears forming behind her crystal eyes. Jacob, she whispered. Zorath finally rose from his seat, voice trembling with fury. Enough, this is blasphemy. Guards, remove him! But before the guards could move, something unexpected happened. A young Virene woman stood up from the crowd. No, she shouted. He speaks the truth. Another joined. Then another. Soon dozens of Virene began to glow with different colors, colors that should not exist in their pure society. Reds, blues, golds, and imperfections revealed. We are not empty glass, someone cried. We are living light. The hall exploded into chaos, colors flashing everywhere. For the first time in Virene history, imperfection filled the hall of perfection. Zorath shouted over the noise, "Stop this madness!" But his voice was lost in the storm of colors and cries. The fall of the old order guards tried to restore order, but they hesitated. Even some of them began to glow in strange hues. The idea, the human idea, had taken root. Zorath's crystal body flickered violently. "This is corruption," he screamed. "You have doomed us all." Reeves turned to Lysera. "You did it," he said softly. "They're seeing it now." Lysera looked around in disbelief. The walls, once perfect and pure, were now filled with reflections of living light, mixed, colorful, alive. Zorath raised his staff again, desperate to stop it. "This is not beauty. This is destruction." Lysera stepped forward. Her voice was calm but carried across the hall. "No, Elder, this is creation. For the first time, we are not copies of one another. We are ourselves." Zorath froze. The light in his body dimmed. The crowd began to chant softly, a phrase that spread like fire. "We are the light through cracks." Reeves smiled faintly. "I think they understand now." Aftermath hours later, the hall stood quiet. The chaos had ended, but the change could not be undone. Zorath resigned from the council, unable to accept the new way. Many elders followed. But the younger generation, artists, thinkers, and dreamers, stepped forward to rebuild. They named their movement the Imperfect Light. Lysera was asked to lead it. She refused at first, saying she was no leader, but eventually agreed when she saw how many believed in her. When the news reached the galaxy, reactions poured in. Some called it a revolution. Others called it a spiritual awakening. And in every version of the story told across the stars, one name was always mentioned with hers, the human who saw beauty where others saw shame. A quiet goodbye. A few days later, Reeves stood by his ship preparing to leave Virene Prime. Lysera joined him. "You're leaving already?" she asked softly. He smiled. "My job here is done. The rest belongs to you." She looked at him, light reflecting off her silver lines. "You changed more than my world, Jacob. You changed me." He nodded. "And you changed me too. You reminded me why humanity matters, and not because of power, but because we still see light even when it's broken." Lysera smiled, her eyes glowing softly. "You will always be welcome here, human." Reeves turned toward the ship's ramp. "And you'll always be a friend of Earth." As the engines lit up, Lysera raised her hand, light scattering through her imperfect crystals like 1,000 tiny stars. Reeves looked back one last time and said, "Never hide your light again," she replied with a soft smile. "Never stop seeing beauty where others don't." The ship rose into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. It had been 6 months since the trial of light on Virene Prime. The galaxy had not been the same since. What started as one woman's shame and one human's simple reply had turned into something far greater, a movement that crossed borders, worlds, and even species. But not everyone was ready for it. Not everyone wanted change. The new light on dozens of planets, beings who had once hidden their imperfections, began to step out proudly. Artists painted their scars. Engineers built machines that weren't perfectly symmetrical but worked beautifully. Children with strange colors or broken patterns were celebrated instead of rejected. Across the communication networks, a phrase spread like wildfire. "We are the light through cracks." It became a symbol of courage, a message of hope, and at the center of it all, Lysera. She had become a living legend, the flawed crystal who stood against the High Council and changed her people's heart. Everywhere she went, crowds gathered. Everywhere she spoke, light patterns shifted in her honor. But she didn't act like a hero. She still lived simply, wore humble robes, and spent her time teaching young Vereen to embrace their differences. One night, while standing on a balcony overlooking the glowing city of New Shara, she looked up at the stars and whispered to herself, "Jacob Reeves, where are you now?" The humans returned fare away on the human ship Endeavor. Commander Jacob Reeves stared at the same stars. The galaxy had grown louder since his return. Humans had gained a strange new reputation as the race that broke perfection. Some alien leaders saw them as heroes. Others saw them as a threat. His superiors had called him back to Earth to explain his actions on Vereen Prime. "You interfered in another civilization's cultural system," Admiral Hayes had told him coldly. "Do you understand how many governments are blaming us for their uprisings?" Reeves had only replied, "I didn't cause uprisings, sir. I caused understanding." The Admiral had sighed. "You caused trouble, Commander. The Council of Systems is calling for a hearing. They think humanity is spreading dangerous ideas." Reeves had simply smiled. Then they finally started listening. The Shadow Alliance. But while some admired him, others began to plot. In a dark chamber on the planet Vorthax, several alien leaders met in secret. The air was thick with dust and tension. At the table sat the Zillarn warlord Kor, the Tanai, Speaker Velis, and an envoy from the Vereen Old Order, Elder Zorath himself. Zorath's light had dimmed since his defeat. His once glowing skin now flickered weakly. "This madness must be stopped," he hissed. "The humans have poisoned our young. They have turned our people against perfection." Kor, a massive, reptilian creature with scales like iron, growled, "Your people were fools to believe them. But you are right. These humans, they spread ideas faster than disease." Velis nodded, her voice echoing like liquid metal. "If they continue, other species will follow. Empires will fall. Chaos will spread." Zorath slammed his staff on the floor. "Then we must act. The galaxy must be reminded that perfection, order, and control are what keep us alive. The human must be silenced." A dark silence filled the room. Kor's eyes glowed red. "Then let's remind the galaxy who truly holds power." Message to the galaxy. 2 weeks later, a broadcast appeared on every interstellar channel. A symbol of the Shadow Alliance, 3 rings of black fire, flickered on every screen. Then a voice spoke. "The galaxy is falling into madness. Weakness spreads through lies. We, the Alliance of Order, will not allow this infection to continue. The human who corrupted the Vereen, Commander Jacob Reeves, is declared a galactic criminal. Any who protect him will share his fate." Shockwaves spread across the stars. Reeves became the most wanted man in the galaxy, not for violence, not for crimes, but for an idea. Lysera hears the news. When Lysera heard the message, she froze. The news feed flickered across her quarters. Reeves's face appeared on the screen, marked with a red warning symbol. Her assistant gasped. "They've declared him an enemy of the galaxy." Lysera's glow dimmed. "For speaking truth?" she whispered. She didn't hesitate. She walked to her communicator and opened a secure channel. "Human vessel Endeavor, this is Lysera of Vereen Prime. I am requesting immediate contact with Commander Reeves." The signal crackled. A moment later, his voice came through, tired but steady. "Lysera, I was wondering when you'd call." You're in danger, she said quickly. The Alliance is after you. They will not stop. He chuckled lightly. Wouldn't be the first time someone wanted to shut me up. This isn't a joke, Jacob, she said firmly. They could destroy your ship. I know, he said softly. But if they silence me, then the message dies with me. And I can't let that happen. Lysera hesitated. Then I will not let you stand alone. Lysera, it's too dangerous. I was once afraid to show my face, she interrupted. Not anymore. If I stay silent now, then everything you helped me believe in was for nothing. Reeves was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You've become braver than me? No, she replied with a soft smile. You just taught me how. The gathering of light. Within days, messages began to appear across the galactic network, from artists, thinkers, engineers, and even soldiers who believed in what Lysera and Reeves had started. They called themselves the Light Bearers. Their leader, a young Vereen named Kale, sent a message to all members. If they call us broken, let them. We will shine through the cracks. Thousands joined, from dozens of planets. Some were aliens, some were humans. All carried the same idea. Beauty is not perfection. Strength is not control. Freedom is not chaos. The Shadow Alliance tried to shut their transmissions down. But every time they destroyed one signal, 10 more appeared. It was unstoppable. An idea that had no army, no planet, and yet shook empires. The trap, but the Alliance was clever. They couldn't defeat a belief, so they decided to destroy its symbols. They sent a false message to Reeves's ship, pretending to be from the Light Bearers. It claimed that Lysera had been captured and was being held on a remote moon near the Vorthax system. Without hesitation, Reeves set course. When he arrived, the moon looked lifeless. No lights, no signals, just silence. Lysera? He called through the communicator. No response. Then the scanners picked up movement. Ships emerging from the dark side of the moon. It was an ambush. The Shadow Alliance fleet surrounded him, hundreds of ships locking weapons. A deep voice echoed through his comms. Kor, the warlord. Human Reeves. The galaxy will remember you as a mistake. Reeves took a deep breath. If believing in freedom is a mistake, then I'll make it again. He tried to break through the blockade, but the enemy fire crippled his engines. The Endeavor shook violently. Systems began to fail. Smoke filled the control room. Reeves fell to one knee, gripping the console. Lysera, he whispered. Guess I'm not as brave as I thought. Then the ship exploded in a burst of white light. The message that survived across the galaxy. Every Lightbearer channel went silent. News spread that Commander Reeves had been destroyed. But then, something impossible happened. Every holographic screen, every communicator, every satellite, all at once, flickered on. A hologram appeared. It was Reeves. Not alive, but recorded. If you're seeing this, his voice said, it means they finally got me. But don't let that stop you. Don't let my voice die with the fire. Because this was never about me. Or Lysera. It was about you. His image flickered but continued. You don't need permission to be different. You don't need perfection to be beautiful. You don't need fear to stay strong. The cracks in you, they let the light out. So let it shine. The message repeated across the stars, unstoppable. Even the Alliance couldn't shut it down. Millions watched, millions cried, and millions decided the human's light would not die. Lysera's promise on Vereen Prime. Lysera stood before the entire city, her crystal skin glowing brighter than ever. She looked up at the hologram of Reeves's last message playing in the sky. Tears shimmered like silver rain on her cheeks. She spoke to the crowd. Commander Reeves is gone, but his words are not. The light he showed us is ours now. We are no longer bound by fear or by perfection. We are free. The crowd began to chant softly, the same words they had once whispered in the Hall of Perfection. We are the light through cracks. The galaxy had changed. The human, Commander Jacob Reeves, was gone. His ship destroyed. His name banned by the powerful Shadow Alliance. But his message lived. Everywhere across the stars, beings whispered his words like a prayer. The cracks in you, and they let the light out. And now, that light was about to rise higher than anyone had ever imagined. The galaxy trembles in the weeks after Reeves's death. The Shadow Alliance tightened its grip. They sent fleets to silence protest worlds. They banned human art, destroyed Vereen broadcasts, and executed anyone who spoke of the light. But something strange happened. The more they tried to erase the message, the brighter it spread. Vereen miners on the moon of Solon carved Reeves's words into the crystal walls. Human engineers painted his symbol, a single cracked circle, on their ships. Even soldiers in the Alliance armies began to question what they were fighting for. And in the heart of this storm stood Lysera, the woman who had once doubted her beauty. Lysera's vision, she no longer hid her lines or flaws. Her skin, filled with glowing silver cracks, had become a beacon. Wherever she went, people followed, not because she ordered them to, but because they saw hope in her. Inside the City of Light on Vereen Prime, she gathered the leaders of dozens of species, rebels, thinkers, and soldiers tired of being controlled. Among them was Kyle, a young Vereen who had once been her student. "We can't win a war against the Alliance," Kyle said nervously. "They control everything, fleets, planets, governments." Lysera looked at him calmly. "We are not fighting with weapons, Kale. We are fighting with truth." "But they will kill us," someone shouted. She turned to face them all. "They already kill those who speak freely. If we hide, we are already dead." Silence filled the chamber. Then Lysera said quietly, "Reeves gave his life for this. I will not let his light fade into memory." The Alliance strikes. It didn't take long for the Alliance to notice the growing movement. One night, under the cold light of twin moons, hundreds of dark ships appeared in orbit around Vereen Prime. From the command ship, Warlord Kor watched the planet with cruel satisfaction. "End the infection," he growled. "Burn their cities, crush their spirits." His fleet opened fire. Beams of energy tore through the sky, striking the surface. Towers of glass shattered. Fires spread through the glowing streets. Lysera stood on a balcony watching the flames. She felt fear, but also something else. Determination. She turned to her followers. "We cannot outfight them, but we can outshine them." The broadcast in the heart of the city stood the Crystal Spire, a tall tower once used by the old Vereen Council for speeches. Lysera and Kale climbed to the top, where an old transmitter was still connected to galactic networks. Kale hesitated. "They'll trace the signal in minutes." Lysera smiled sadly. "Then we'll only need one." She activated the controls. Across the galaxy, screens flickered, and in ships, stations, homes, and cities, her image appeared everywhere. Her glowing face filled with cracks. Her voice calm but powerful. "This is Lysera of Vereen Prime. The Alliance says we are broken. They say we must hide our differences. But I say, we are more beautiful because of them." Her words echoed across the stars. "They destroyed the human who showed me that truth. But they cannot destroy the truth itself, because it lives in you, in every scar, every failure, every imperfection that makes you alive." The feed spread faster than the Alliance could block it. "They want us to be perfect reflections. But perfection is empty. Real light shines through the cracks. Let it shine, my friends. Let it blind those who fear it." And then, for the first time since Reeves's death, she spoke his name aloud. "Jacob Reeves showed me that imperfection is not weakness. It's proof that we've survived. And so long as one of us carries that light, he is not gone." The Light Rebellion, the broadcast, sparked a revolution. On a dozen planets, civilians rose against the Alliance. Soldiers threw down their weapons. Artists projected Lysera's message onto city walls. Ships from all species, human, Vereen, and others, joined together under one symbol, a circle with a single shining crack. The Alliance tried to stop them, but their fleets began to fall apart from inside. Crews refused orders. Officers questioned commands. Warlord Kor watched in fury as more of his ships defected every hour. "Fools," he roared. "You trade perfection for chaos." But no one answered him. Even his bridge crew avoided his eyes. The final confrontation, Kor was not done. He launched his flagship, the Iron Shadow, straight toward Vereen Prime. If he could destroy Lysera, maybe he could kill the movement. On the planet, Lysera stood before the burning skyline as alarms blared. Kale ran to her side. "The Iron Shadow is approaching. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen." Lysera looked to the sky, the ship's black shape blotting out the stars. She turned to her people. "Then let them come. Let them see what light truly means." As the massive warship entered the atmosphere, she stepped onto the spire's open platform and raised her arms. The cracks in her skin glowed brighter until she looked like a living star. "Lysera," Kale shouted. "What are you doing?" She smiled, finishing what he started. She activated a small device, something Reeves had once given her, a fragment of human technology. It amplified energy through emotion, through light. The glow from her body exploded outward. The entire city lit up. Every building, every shard of glass, every broken piece of crystal began to reflect her light. The beam shot upward, straight into the Iron Shadow's hull. Kor screamed as the brilliance filled his ship. Consoles melted. Engines overloaded. His last words were drowned in the roar of light. Then the warship broke apart, dissolving into 1,000 pieces that rained down like falling stars. After the fire, when the smoke cleared, the sky of Vereen Prime shimmered with colors never seen before. Reds, blues, silvers, golds, and the light of life. Lysera lay on the platform, weak but alive. Kyle rushed to her side. "You did it," he said, tears glowing in his eyes. "You saved us," she smiled faintly. "No, Kale, we did. Because we believed." He helped her sit up. "But how did you do that?" "That power." She touched the device on her wrist, cracked and sparking. "It wasn't power. It was light, the kind Reeves saw in me when I didn't see it myself." Kyle looked at the sky. He would have been proud. Lysera nodded slowly. "He is proud. Somewhere his light watches us." The new dawn years passed. The Shadow Alliance fell apart. Worlds once ruled by fear were now free. The new government that rose was not built on control, but on unity, called the Coalition of Light. Their flag was simple, a white circle with a single shining crack through the center. And at the heart of it all, Vereen Prime became a world of art, creation, and learning. A place where no one was forced to hide what made them different. Lysera became the first speaker of the coalition. But she never saw herself as a ruler. She was a teacher, just like Reeves had been. She spent her days speaking to young beings of every species, reminding them that beauty was not about looking perfect, but about being real. The statue one morning, Kale led her to the edge of the city, where something new had been built. A statue made of crystal and metal. It showed a human man standing beside a Vereen woman, both looking toward the stars. At the base, words were carved in every galactic language. "The cracks in you let the light out." Lysera touched the statue's surface gently. "He will be remembered," she whispered. Kale smiled. "Because of you," she shook her head. "Because of us." The final message that night. Lysera stood alone under the stars, the same stars she had once looked at in silence. Long ago, when she had hated her own reflection. Now, her reflection glowed with pride and peace. She opened her old communicator, the one Reeves had used to speak to her before his final mission. It was cracked, half dead but still faintly working. She pressed record and spoke softly. "Jacob Reeves, wherever you are, I kept my promise. Your light lives in all of us now. You showed me that beauty isn't what we see in the mirror. It's what we choose to share with others. You taught a galaxy how to love its own scars. Thank you." She looked up at the sky, where a single star flickered brighter than the rest. "Goodbye, my friend, or maybe, hello, somewhere new." The wind carried her words into the night. Epilogue, the legacy centuries later. In the halls of the Coalition Academy, students still learned about the human who broke perfection and the flawed crystal who changed the stars. Every year, on the anniversary of the Trial of Light, they gathered to say the words that began it all. "We are the light through cracks."